Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Energy Realities Podcast. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube. We are not live on X right now because there is a problem with X. Imagine that. Let's introduce our co-host today. We've got a roundtable extraordinaire. We've got Irina Slav from Bulgaria. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you, Stu. Spring is coming. My daffodils are blooming. I'm happy.
Outstanding. I'm going to town this week to buy a load of horse manure, not for my writing, but for actually gardening. So
You can
I'm
get that
getting
for
ready.
free. Just access CNN's X feeds, Stu. It's a load of horse manure with every post.
No, that's human horse manure that I don't need. But let's go over here to the Dr. Tammy Nemeth, not just a Dr. Tammy Nemeth wandering around the streets looking for a cup of handouts. We're talking about the Nemeth Report. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. So glad you asked. It's gray in England, unsurprisingly. I thought spring was coming. We had like a day of sunshine, and now it's gray. So
great for solar panels.
Yeah, I know. Every time I drive by, I'm like, I wonder how much power that's generating today.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then we have the David Blackman. I mean, not just a imitation of a David Blackman, but we've got David Blackman hanging out in his virtual studio. Yeah. What was that TV show where that guy was, and he was just kind of like just twitching all the time because he was coming in and out? Do you remember that? Max Headroom.
Max Headroom, yeah.
Are you going to be Max Headroom on the Energy Realities podcast today?
I'm not hyperactive enough for that. I remember those ads. They were pretty extraordinary for the time. That was 45 years ago, but yeah, that's how old I am. I remember that stuff. Good morning to Robert De Domenico, who just logged on and said good morning. Appreciate it. It's a lovely day here in Texas. I never knew I had a grand piano. I'm going to have to learn how to play it.
I imagine after listening to you for 1.5 seconds this morning, your head was banging it again just a minute ago. And that's a new definition of headbangers. Today, we want to talk about in an open forum format where we talk about how net zero is being replaced by energy security demands. And it is kind of like all of a sudden, are the people in charge waking up to the fact that consumers want energy security? And I've been saying for a long time that energy security starts at home. Energy dominance comes through your exports. But now energy dependence is now really shown how the EU has managed their energy prices. So I'm going to throw this open over here to Irina, since you get the greatest sense of humor out of any of us. Tell us what you think going on here.
No, I'm just the rudest among us.
Same thing.
Well, I've had a very fun day writing about LNG cargoes departing from the US Gulf Coast and rerouting from Europe to Asia because Asian LNG prices are higher. And then I had to read a statement by the EU Energy Commissioner from last week who said crisis is nowhere near the levels from 2022. So basically, it's all good. We have no real problems. But that was before the LNG cargoes began diverting because Asia needs LNG, it needs it now. And just today, gas prices in Europe, the TTF benchmark, opened with a 30% jump. So maybe we'll be seeing some reverse redirection of LNG cargoes because European gas will be expensive and the prices will be high enough for US exporters to, switch buyers again. And it really says a lot about the energy independence that people like Jorgensen celebrated 5 years ago. It's not independence, it's a crushing dependence. And now we don't have the alternative of Qatari LNG. I'm fine with that because we've got coal and we've got nuclear. But I have no idea what countries such as Germany and the Netherlands are going to do. Because, yes, spring is coming, but it's not here yet. And we might yet get a late freeze.
Yeah.
And gas in storage is at 29% right now for EU. It's about 19 or 20 for Germany, and for the Netherlands, their gas in storage is at like 9%.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah.
With why prices are so high, and with a fifth of LNG capacity out for the time being, it doesn't matter if it goes back online by the end of the month. It will not be soon enough to prevent a gas price shock.
Well, Qatar shut in their LNG exports. They're ballpark 20% of the market. I calculated out with a crayon from Oklahoma State. They do not teach us how to read or do math from Oklahoma State. And so I'm ballparking that if the war ends in 6 weeks, it's another 2 to 3 months after that before they can come back online.
Yeah.
And that's just the gas, because I just read a post on X by an oil analyst, really experienced lady, who was talking about oil and petrochemicals. And she said that even things end like in a week, it will take a couple of months to 3 months at least to restore normal flow of crude oil, and even longer for petrochemicals.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's really beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Tammy, how are you this morning?
I'm good. It's interesting that energy security is back on the menu. After the Russian invasion of Ukraine, there were lots of people who were like, oh, energy security is back. It's back. It's back. And then nothing really happened with that. It was all about, we need to sanction Russia. We need to stop buying their stuff. We're going to diversify our supplies from these other places and so on, right? I mean, it was hilarious. And then at the same time, like, let me give you the Canadian example. All these countries after the Russian invasion, Germany, Japan, others, came to Canada saying, please, please, please sell us your natural gas. Build some LNG export terminals. We're ready to take it. You've got this market. And all we heard in Canada was there's no business case. Yeah. It's too expensive. It'll never get built by the time the emergency's over. And so delay, nothing happens. And now we have another crisis and we're hearing the same arguments. Oh, yeah, it'll never get built in time. There's no reason to do it. Yeah. There's no reason to do it because Europe's transitioning anyway. And, we don't need to do it. So what's holding it back, really, there's already an LNG facility. It's owned by Repsol in St. John, New Brunswick. They talked about turning it into an export facility, but there has to be a pipeline from Quebec City across the St. Lawrence to New Brunswick. And Quebec has said, no, you can't build any more pipelines through Quebec.
Yeah.
And they also passed a law a couple of years ago that banned, they have a lot of natural gas in Quebec, that banned the development of their own resources. So they're acting like Europe. Oh, we have it, but we're so amazing, we don't want to develop our own resources. And then this stuff happens, and then they're like, well, we just have to move faster on wind and solar and batteries. And if we just build that up, we can get wind built really fast. We can get solar built really fast. And so we can do that instead of having reliable energy. So there's like the length of that pipeline is about between 300 and 500 kilometers, depending what route they take, but it has to go under the St. Lawrence Seaway. Or the St. Lawrence. So, they can do it, but the environmental sort of, the environmental implications, the environmentalists will go crazy. They don't even want Alberta oil on the St. Lawrence in tankers, even though stuff gets imported in. Apparently it's bad. So for LNG, I don't know. But it's a technically simple pipeline to do it. And it's really frustrating because it's just the same tired old arguments. We can't build it in time. It won't be here for this crisis. Just thinking that there's never ever going to be another crisis again. So, and the last point I just wanted to make is to make it more international. Where's the International Energy Agency? They were designed for this. They were built for this. They came because of the original energy crisis. There is a sharing program there. There's a sharing plan. So all of these tankers that are diverting or whatever, this is where the IEA and the sharing mechanism ought to be activated and say, look, our allies, our members are in trouble. There's this big disruption. Where's the leadership there? And honestly, I hate to say it, the United States is the leader of the IEA, whether they like it or not. And they ought to be the ones out there saying, well, this is where we need to activate the sharing program.
Yeah.
Well, they're talking about releasing 400 barrels of oil now.
It's the G7, yeah.
Yeah.
400,000 or just 400?
400 million.
400 million, sorry.
Which is going to be hard for the U.S. to do since Joe Biden already decimated the SPR. Instead of having the 700 million barrels we ought to have in it, we have about 400 million. You take another 150 million, which I assume the U.S. would be asked to donate around that level because it has the biggest reserve of any of those countries. Then you're down at 250, which is, what is that? That's about 12 days total U.S. demand for crude oil. So we're supposed to have 3 months worth in there of our gross imports. That's what it's supposed to be. And that equates to about, I'm trying to think here, of our gross imports, we import about 4 million a day. So what is that? I can't do it off the top of my head, but it's less than 60 or a little more than 60 days. So we're way down and already. And so, but I think the U.S. is going to need to do that to try to stabilize prices. Otherwise, we're going to go well above 150 in the next week.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see any other path for it.
Can I?
The American imports, though, are mostly from Canada. They do get some from the Middle East and whatnot. And one of the fundamental things about the North American market is that Canada is there to backstop the United States. So, even if we can't get the oil and gas to Tidewater as necessary, we can run it down through the United States as long as the Canadians are compensated appropriately, which hasn't been happening.
Stu?
If you sit back and take a look at the Strait of Hormuz, the United States imports only 2% of the oil from the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah. That
all goes to California based off of the flows. Oops. So any oil being imported in, I firmly believe that if the sanctions are lifted on the Russian tankers that are on the water, there's millions of barrels of oil on the Russian tank of Russian oil that is being released immediately. And I'm going to bring to the stage the Hormuz traffic right now. The guppies are lining up on each end of the pond. Right now, there's still nothing there. Notice all these tankers loaning around over here, kind of loitering around. Those are all destinations. As we come into the Karg Island over here, notice there is more traffic now over here. These are not tankers yet. I'm noticing, I'm not sure what this is.
What are those green ones? What are the green ones?
The green ones are lighter tankers or commercial ships.
Right. Okay.
The red ones are the tankers.
Yeah, the red ones.
This is Karg Island where there's 90%, and the neocons and the nut jobs are saying capture it. We don't have to. President Trump and Secretary Bessent are going to drop the Venezuela controls into Iran. This is my opinion based off of President Trump's mean tweets. So when you sit back and think about how this is going to happen, here is Kuwait, where they've already been bombing them. Notice the tankers are over here loading up. Kuwait has been shuttered in over here in their system. And then you have over here, this is Abu Dhabi and this is the UAE. I had a family friend that was just landed this weekend out of this. I got really tickled by the X posts of why we would cut a canal right here.
Yeah.
When you have drones that are very capable of hitting this right here. This is
We can hide the canal.
range.
We can just hide the canal, Stu. You know, they'll never see it.
Yeah, just
Never see it.
But the guppies all lined up over here. This is a insurance issue that the Bank of London and Lloyd's of London have caused, and it's not a issue when you put military vessels. I'm quite honestly entertained at the point right now of Herr Starmer being insulted at the president of the United States, but now they
had a nice talk yesterday. Yeah, they had a friendly talk.
They had a good talk, but I still love the fact that when they can't even get their one aircraft carrier out of dock, and then the Canadians are saying, "Oh, we're ready to send something," and no, we don't need you guys.
Can I make a point about Lloyd's of London and the insurance thing? Because I think it's really important lesson of history here. We had a full-scale war to liberate Kuwait right along the Persian Gulf 35 years ago. It lasted for weeks. There were thousands of tanker transits through the Strait of Hormuz during that war, all of which were fully insured by the very same Lloyd's of London and the insurance carriers who take cues from Lloyd's of London, all based in London, that now refuse to provide insurance for tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. So this is an unprecedented action Lloyd's took. And I have to wonder what the real agenda at Lloyd's really is. Because quite frankly, this is pretty indefensible unless they're about broke, unless they just don't have the financial wherewithal to sustain any losses. It's a pretty indefensible. And I know President Trump has been reluctant to go after them for this, other than to offer competing coverage, which isn't getting off the ground. But I just really do have to wonder what the agenda at Lloyd's really is, what is their real motivation for taking this action was last Saturday, because there's no historical precedent for it. There's been a lot of real wars happening in the Persian Gulf over the last 70, 80 years since they gained the monopoly over the insurance racket over there. Anyway, that's my rant for this morning at Lloyd's of London.
I'll leave my opinion out of that because I already know the answer to it.
Well, I know.
But I'll tell you what I do see, though, is Secretary Bessent's price controls of Venezuela going on to the Iranian monetary system. The Houthis were paid $2 billion a year. That is a lot of money that could be restoring to Iranian directly. And I firmly believe that once we see that happen, they've just announced, I believe the mullah's son is now supposed to be the next one in charge.
Yeah.
General Kellogg was actually actually pretty funny on Fox News. I don't watch Fox News. I saw it on a clip, and he said, "Have you heard of the American game called Whack-A-Mole? We're now playing Whack-A-Moolah." I would not want to be in his shoes.
That's what happened to good taste, really.
Yeah.
What happened
That was.
decency?
I thought it was like, holy cow, Batman.
Yeah, for you, yeah, but for non-Americans, not really that funny.
when you sit back and take a look, though, whoever the next mullah is going to be is not going to be in charge unless President Trump approves them.
Really? Okay.
I'm just saying.
Well, what I found interesting
right now, but sorry, Tammy.
No, go ahead, Irina.
No, that was all. It doesn't look like Trump has any say in what the Iranian leadership does right now. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
but
I think that's right now.
Yeah, right now for sure.
One thing, but sorry.
Yeah, it's interesting because this guy is a middling cleric, and so they got the revolution. Yeah, so the revolution got rid of a monarchy. They hated the idea of a monarchy and that people could just inherit the throne. And yet this guy, who by all accounts that I've been reading, I don't know how true they are, he's not a high-level cleric. He's not, he doesn't particularly stand out, but he's the son of the last guy. So this is the case of them having their own inherited seat, instead of, they might say, well, a council chose this guy. He just happens to be the heir. I don't think so. Yeah. Maybe none of the others wanted to do it because there would be a missile targeting them. I don't know. Maybe they're the real guys waiting.
There was a report, and I forget which outlet it was, that the Iranian military forced that action on the Council of Experts, that was the military's choice for some reason, and I don't really understand any of the internal.
Oh yeah, I read something along those lines. Yeah.
So I don't,
we'll see, I guess, but
it does seem an odd choice.
I like this comment about UK gas supplies down to 2 days. Isn't that a great time to be at Miliband? I mean, he's been wanting to get the UK off international gas prices since he came into office. He should be happy.
He is. He is.
Is that gasoline, Tammy? Is that gasoline or natural gas?
Natural gas.
I think it's natural gas. I'm not sure. Okay. But yeah, he's celebrating. He was the one who led the cabinet revolt against Starmer allowing the US to use their bases.
Yeah.
He's a very interesting person. He stabbed his own brother in the back to be leader of the party back in the mid 2000s. So, I mean, that kind of ruthlessness. He's happy to throw the rest of us under the bus. Sorry, Irina?
So what?
I thought it was making a joke. I thought it was being ironic.
I know. I wish it were a joke.
Yeah.
I honestly wish it were a joke.
Yeah, it's hard to joke right now, right? I mean, we've got oil prices at 110 or 105, I guess, Brent.
One of the things,
it was 120 at one point yesterday and came back down. I'm not sure what sent it back down, but I don't know. The rest of y'all, I don't see how this goes anywhere but up as long as shipping traffic is paralyzed.
Sorry, Stu. It was the news about the release by G7.
Oh, the G7 news. Okay.
Yeah. When they heard 400 million barrels, they started selling. Sorry, Stu.
Oh no! I think if we realize how much comes out of the strategic oil reserves and how much Russian oil is on the water, will survive, will allow for a couple weeks of a very smooth, filling in. I believe we're going to hang around the 100 like a bunch of guppies outside the Strait of Hormuz. But I really feel that something happened this weekend when the refinery in Tehran was hit. It exposed a hidden pipeline that was tankering oil outside of even the OPEC plus and OPEC counting mechanisms. I have been saying this for years. The world does not know how much oil is actually on the market. And that's what Saudi Arabia for the last 2 years has been saying. In 2027, they want to have new oil matrices. How much can we produce? How much is in demand? And what blends are at the refineries? Not all oil is the same. So each refinery needs a different blend. And not many people are sitting here calculating out how much is going to go into that. And I applaud the Saudi Arabian leadership for trying to create some kind of pricing matrices other than, oh my goodness, a bomb went off. Now we've got $100 oil. That's not a pricing mechanism.
Well, so that's another question, of course, is that the Israeli army did hit all of that storage and at least one refinery right there in Tehran. Apparently, to the surprise of the Trump administration, at least the extent of it. They were told in advance that the IDF was going to hit a single storage location, and they ended up just kind of torching everything around the city of Tehran. So that could start to fracture the alliance that's started this conflict, basically kicked it off. And I just wonder what the ramifications of that are going to be, because, now you're giving the media, which is uniformly against this action, all these tremendous visuals from their point of view with black smoke everywhere and reports of it's raining oil in Tehran and all the undeniable negative environmental consequences from doing that. So this is certainly was not a helpful action, and I just wonder what impact that's going to have really on the oil price when markets open today, frankly. Because, this G7 thing, even if it happens, it's going to take weeks to implement, at least days. You're not just going to dip into the strategic oil reserve and take 150 million barrels up in a big ladle and pour it onto the world market. It's going to come out in a pretty limited flow. You might be able to do 1 million barrels a day again, like Joe Biden did for a while. But, we're losing 20 million a day, not 1 million a day, minus whatever the East-West Saudi pipeline is carrying, which it's rated at 8 million, but you might be able to get 5 million in it. And so it's a lot more. This is a kind of putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. And I just don't think it's going to, once markets really digest it, I don't think it's going to stop the rising oil price, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the oil prices is also about what traders feel. It's very emotion driven, and what they believe is happening versus what the reality is and whatnot. Which if it becomes reactionary, you can get those kind of spikes and whatnot that that can destabilize stuff. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting to see this dynamic about energy security and then the contrasting push to triple down on net zero, and if we have more wind and solar and batteries, everything would be better. That narrative is circulating like crazy, whether it's on X or
again, they're doing it
again. Like all the left wing kind of news, and I would put news in scare quotes. Organizations in the UK and in Canada or whatever are pushing that narrative, right? It's like it would be much better for the world if these terrible oil wars weren't happening. And
that is an accurate observation, but it's
an accurate, undeniable observation. Yes.
Right. Yeah. I put in the chat there that Lloyd's of London. Maybe this is part of it, maybe not, but they had this really big framework for how they do things in the future, ensuring the transition. and they were really pivoting and going after the companies they insure to lower their emissions and everything else. And there's been some articles out there. I don't know how accurate or true it is. Maybe it's one of the factors, is that they're concerned there could be an oil spill if these tankers get attacked in the Straits of Hormuz. And therefore, they don't want to have to insure cleaning up an oil spill. And it could devastate the ecosystems, marine life, so on and so forth. So it could be a great excuse to say, the UK is pressuring us, but really it's about the environment. We're just being good stewards to not insure the possibility of these kinds of things. I don't know.
So shouldn't everyone condemn the whole war because it emits a lot of polluting elements in addition to, I'm sure, CO2? But
right. So
no condemnation.
Do you recall when Russia invaded Ukraine?
Yeah.
And in the subsequent year or two, they talked about how Russia will have to pay reparations for environmental damage. Are they going to go after America? Will they go after America saying, you created all of these emissions from blowing up stuff? It wasn't Iran's fault that they were targeting refineries and all this different kinds of things and the desalination plants because you provoked them. So really, America, you owe the world reparations for creating this environmental damage. I could totally see.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the talking are already being drafted.
No.
You know,
at the UN or whatever, right?
Right now. Yeah, but this is there's just such madness. I mean, we could, let's cover up all the farmland in America with solar panels like Elon Musk wants to do.
Yeah.
Okay. And what does that solve? Well, it reduces the world population that are being farmland by about 85%. So yeah, you're going to have a lot less pollution then, and you're going to need a lot less energy. So things might actually become more stable when you only have 500 million people living on Earth instead of 8 billion, which of course at its base has always been the real goal, the final solution at the WEF and all these globalist organizations. So, but thinking that building more solar panels and windmills would have somehow mitigated what's happening today is absurd. It's just ludicrous because you have to build backup base load power to back up all of it.
And because they won't do coal.
Right. Won't do coal, so it's got to be natural gas because you won't do coal or nuclear. So, I mean, you haven't solved any problem whatsoever. There's no solution related to renewables in any of this, unless you want to do geothermal and, real net zero carbon power production like nuclear. Okay. If you really want to do real solutions, then yeah, you have something to talk about. But if you're going to continue to talk about wind and solar, you're just pissing into the wind with us, folks. Sorry. Anyway, sorry. Another Texasism here.
And there's more. Just like last crisis when oil shot up above $100 a barrel, this crisis will make building more wind and solar more expensive because all these supply chain disruptions, production costs, and this and that. It's true. So the transition that they are so fervently advocating for is going to slow down even further.
Yeah.
So that these people will end up doing nothing. Oh, but they approved that legally binding 90% emission reduction target by, was it 2040?
Yeah. 90% by 2040.
Yeah, it's totally happening. Yeah,
sure. So another great story I saw this morning was one that's being pushed by the Enviros from Indonesia. Okay. They're saying Indonesia is going to double down on palm oil-based diesel production to reduce its dependence on imported oil. And, so again, there aren't enough palm trees on the face of the earth to make a pinprick in any of this. It's just ludicrous, but it's being pushed as some sort of solution to this. And all it does is make stuff more expensive. It doesn't do the environment a bit of good. And it's just madness. It's pure madness.
Yeah,
Always a fun. No, go on, Tammy.
You have to wonder who will benefit from that project.
Well, I'm
Who
sure Bill
gets,
Gates has investments in
funding
palm oil.
or whatever to do these crazy ideas. It's like the whole ethanol production element, right? And I just think of the argument that if we build the wind and solar, we only have to rely on China to get those initial things, and then it spins for free, or collects the sun for free and all that.
I want to ask a real question. What are the 6,000 projects that are made from oil and natural gas that you can make from wind and solar?
Or palm trees?
Yeah.
If you have only wind and solar, you're not going to have an iPhone. If you only have wind and solar, you're not going to have the microphone. You're not going to have the camera. You're not going to have the internet. You're not going to have computers. You're not going to have all these things. So there are about 6,200 products that are made with oil and natural gas. You're not going to have them. So anytime a wind turbine propeller person talks, I just say, you like your iPhone? I do want to share this, bring this back to the stage. David, you were talking about that pipeline, 8 million, but they've only averaged 5. Yes, it goes just north of Riyadh right here.
Yeah.
Let me zoom in. There is a tanker right here filling up. Let me zoom in on the tanker.
There's a bunch of them.
No, these are not tankers. There's 2 tankers. This one is a Suez Max. It's going to destination Suez, and this one is one. It's got 2 helpers next to it. This is the Rawa. It was 2 minutes ago, but this is about where they film.
Yeah.
So there is still oil hitting the markets. And it's thank goodness for the foresight of the Saudi Arabian leaders to put that pipeline in.
But show the traffic through Hormuz again. Can you move it up and show that?
Here is
I don't see anything moving through Hormuz. Is that a live feed?
Yes, this is a live feed.
Zero Hedge just ran a report saying there was heavy tanker traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, and I've been watching that all morning. You haven't seen any traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. So what the hell's he talking about?
Maybe there's a delay, because wow, that would be a great thing for anyone who wanted to do a tax.
Okay, this is 16 minutes ago. This is 2 hours ago. I'm on a live feed here, kids.
Yeah.
Here is 42 minutes ago.
So I don't know what he's reporting there. I just noticed it.
Tyler Durham's a cool cat.
He's great, and that's what surprises me.
There was a Bloomberg report about a Greek tanker who somehow sneaked out.
Right, there was one. Yeah.
There was one tanker, and he changed his. There are 3 things going on. You change your responders to "I am Chinese. My whole crew is Chinese," and they let you go through. Okay, that is illegal and you get in trouble. But there is one captain that did that, and Secretary Chris Wright said that the other day. That was a day or so ago.
Yeah.
So we've actually had about 11 tankers go through the strait in the last few days. Of those 11 tankers, all of them had Chinese as their transponders. Now, I also noticed several tankers were over here in Al Hof based off of GPS spoofing that is going on in this. And I'm like, hey, wait a minute. They got a new canal built in about 15 minutes. No, GPS spoofing is going like crazy in the area. So unless they turned off their transponders, and Tyler Durham's got a lead on them having their transponders off, that would be the only thing I would say. But I doubt it.
I could see that, though, because if this was live, then that would be pretty easy to start targeting those ships. if you had this free live monitoring of them.
Well, even if it's a 16-minute delay, I mean, the ship isn't going to move that much. And, Iran has radar tracking systems. They can see these tankers themselves.
Other one is there is a huge Chinese military radar ship that I noticed. It was out in here picking up all of the radar signals. I was sitting there going, what is that? And I found it, and then it went away again, but it was sitting right out here. So there's even a Chinese military radar ship out here. Francisco also made a comment. I understand Lloyd's of London. Thank you, Francis. Lloyd's of more than you'll ever do from the U.S. Their capital raising is unique. Along with many U.K. installations, they are captured. Yes, I couldn't agree more. Are they spoofing the AIS? Yes, there's a lot of spoofing going on. Kind of like when my wife looks at my checkbook, a lot of spoofing.
Oh yeah, on Saturday there was one ship that transited the strait, and its name the IDGAF, which I thought was entirely appropriate. I don't give a bleep. That's what the label was on this feed. Yeah, IDGAF.
This is so good.
Hey, can I make one point about China getting its oil out of the Persian Gulf? Because a lot of people are resenting that if it's actually happening, which doesn't appear to me it really is. But even if it does, that's a net benefit to everyone on Earth. Okay. China has been getting 6 to 7 million barrels a day through the Persian Gulf. That's what their imports have been. So let's say they're getting all of that. Well, that's a net 6 to 7 million barrels back onto the market. Okay. And that's going to mitigate the rise in prices for everybody. So we should be happy. If Iran wants to let the Chinese tankers through, fine, let them through. That's a net benefit for everyone in terms of price.
Can I throw an ugly baby on your doorstep?
Oh, yeah, sure. It's
I
my
do
fake
not
doorstep. Yeah.
I don't think some ugly babies actually have a seizure and then they become a very brilliant person, kind of like Fetterman having a seizure or whatever he had a total, and now he's like the most brilliant.
Yeah, he's the smartest Democrat in Congress.
Smartest Democrat there is out there. But speaking of ugly babies, the pipeline that was exposed this weekend in Tehran is going to be a problem. It's leaking oil all over Tehran. Thank you, Aslan Pilot Car. I do appreciate you. Speaking of strokes, when you sit back and take a look at China and the oil has not been properly reported for decades. We don't know how much oil the world needs, period. I mean, this is not rocket science. Everybody, because the Dark Fleet tanker is about 1,583 tankers. Now, if you discover these kind of hidden pipelines and oils going out, China has not been paying top dollar. This is the big issue. They've been paying $20 to $30 discount, and then they've been turning around and sending parts that have been marked up retail. So they're price gouging them. This is a $1 trillion monopoly that is going to hit China's economy hard.
And that's because of what? It's because of sanctions, too. If you don't sanction the country's oil, they wouldn't be forced to sell it at a discount to only one client.
Correct.
Right?
Well,
it's almost like the sanctions were designed to benefit China.
Yeah, it's almost that way.
Imagine that.
I believe the sanctions will be ending very quickly, especially when the new pricing.
That would be great.
When the new pricing matrices are going through the Venezuelan style price controls through the Bank of Qatar. When President Secretary Bessent drops those control mechanisms on Iran, sanctions won't matter. because it's going to be going through the approved pricing matrices, and the oil markets are going to change.
I think Iran is a very, very different story from Venezuela.
I think it is too, but
shouldn't the merchant marines or the Navy be securing the zone to decouple the war from global oil movements? What's the sticking point with that kind of arrangement, especially with Israel decimating the missile deployment capacity of the current Iranian regime? That's a really good question, and I don't know the answer to it.
I read something about this from Kepler. An oil analyst from that company explained what the problem is. It's purely physical. Even if there's no fighting, if there are no missiles flying, there are so many tankers currently stuck by the strait that there aren't enough Navy ships to escort them, to restore normal traffic. There is not enough capacity, and even if they do it with what's available in terms of Navy ships, it will take a very, very long time.
Yeah, it would take a long time.
Immediate.
I was surprised to read that the average number of transits by tankers through the Strait of Hormuz on a daily basis is only 100 to 138 per day on average. That's the range during the course of 2026 so far. So that many transits would be doable, I think, given the armada the United States has assembled in the region. But you're right. I mean, the problem really is that there's 400 or 500 tankers sitting there idle.
Exactly.
And some of them are loaded. And so, you got to get them out first before you can restore the loading at the ports of more to come through there. So you really need a bigger capacity for the initial surge.
You need empty ones coming in, because right now Kuwait had to shut down because they don't have any more storage.
Right. So this is all backing up. We've got a bottleneck, and it's all backing up from there.
Right.
It's going to continue until either Lloyd's of London relents or there's some alternate plan that
Andrew brings up a great question. How long will it take to get Venezuelan crude production back up?
It's already up by about 100,000 barrels a day from where it was in January.
But to be impactful will be a different question.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, we're not going to solve this problem with Venezuelan oil, but in 3 or 4 years, you're going to be back from 800,000 barrels a day to probably 2 million.
A follow-up question that Andrew would probably need to ask is, what type of oil? Because everybody does not talk about oil is different. There are different blends that are on the market, and Venezuelan is only one kind of heavy that is not always needed.
Yeah, there's limited refining capacity for the heavy crude, although there's an awful lot of it in the United States. A lot of it,
yeah. Well, and that's also similar to what the Canadian oil is from the oil sands. But the upgraders can process it to be lighter, but
you're right, and blend it,
yeah.
Personally, I would rather buy Canadian oil than Venezuelan oil because it, A, comes in a pipeline, and B, I love all my snow Texans.
I wanted to make a point about the greens. I know we've been kind of talking a little bit about them, but there was there was a post on Substack this morning, a note that the Greens won the election in Baden-Württemberg in Germany. Cool. They edged out the CDP, the Christian Democrat Party, and that's a center of automobile manufacturing, and the Greens still got over 30% of the vote. So clearly, it hasn't hurt enough in Germany. No. That the Greens could still win this type of election in the center of manufacturing. And one of the comments was the level of indoctrination must be pretty heavy there. And we left Germany 10 years ago, but even then there was a real subtle indoctrination of the children. And now these children are 18, 20 years old.
Who can vote.
Who can vote. So it's shocking, not shocking for Germany that they would double down on this. I don't know what it will take for people to understand and realize how destructive the Green Party has been to German economic growth and stability. But oh well.
A lot more pain, but Aslan Pilot Car made a great point about soaring prices and potential shortages, that they benefit the government, because the government would be once again in a position to start rationing energy or to advise demand. What was it? Demand flexibility and 3-minute showers, cold, and this sort of thing, if the situation deteriorates further. And that indoctrination goes back to the 70s. Thank you, Aslan Palkar.
Yeah. Oh, yes, it does. All the hippies got out of college and went into the education system.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's reports on X of 3 Iranian tankers on fire. It is not confirmed.
Yeah,
I don't know who did it. It is not confirmed. Who knows if they did it themselves? I don't know. But I can't see us hitting tankers. I see if anything, I would see them seizing the tankers after they left. That to me would make more sense. Why don't you, if you've got Iranian tankers, just seize them out there, let them go through, and then you can figure it out the pieces. Don't blow them up, because then you've got a ecological disaster. I don't think the U.S. would hit a tanker.
No, we would have no motive. And if Israel has done that, then that's just another pretty divisive thing with the United States. I hope
we know how much President Trump loves oil, and he would not like a tanker hit.
Yeah,
he wouldn't want to waste it. Is that what you mean?
No. And we know Gavin Newsom needs all the hair gel he can get, and there's going to be a shortage of hair gel in California. But there's also the auto pin would hit a tanker. Now, this is funny, Aslan. I'm sorry. This is absolutely hilarious. As we sit here and we take a look at this is a whole paradigm shift of knowledge, how it's changing. You've got live feeds. You can question everything. Trust no one.
Including us,
especially me.
So this has been a horrible issue since last Saturday on X. The rank propagation among some accounts, like Mario Naufal, who previously I thought was pretty reliable. The guy's just been retweeting things to try to get clicks. And so you don't know. I mean, so much of it been just rank, unconfirmed propaganda that I've actually stopped following his account because it's just so ridiculous. This tanker issue that Stu mentions is being reported by an account called ViceGrad24, claiming that the U.S. struck 3 large Iranian vessels. If the United States did this, I don't understand it. Okay. This would be incredibly counterproductive. I've asked Grok to confirm or deny that that's a real story, and then hasn't responded yet. We'll see what Grok says.
Grok said no, that there's no confirmation.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's been real slow responding to me here over the last 24 hours.
Grok understands talking to the handicap, David.
Oh, here we go. Yeah. Okay. Now, Grok says now, multiple reports and video footage confirm U.S. forces struck 3 Iranian vessels in the Persian Gulf today near Bandar Lengeh, Lengeh, and Bandar Kong, plus IRGC patrol boats. The attached video shows massive secondary explosions and fires consistent with the hits. This fits the ongoing Operation campaign and Epic Fury campaign. But I mean, what we don't know is, are these tankers or are they military vessels? I mean, if they're military vessels, then it makes sense.
Yeah.
The explosions could just be the fuel tanks on the ships blowing up. But if they're tankers, this doesn't make any sense at all. So we just need to find out what kind of ships these are.
If they were tankers, they would wait for them to leave outside into the Arabian Ocean and then seize them.
Yeah,
that's how tankers would work. A tanker is a fairly easy target to take. They're not going to blow it up. Why?
Yeah, I think it was more military action against military ships or whatever. I don't think it was hitting tankers. But it's easy to complain that during fog of war, right?
Right, exactly.
Oh, and oil prices just fell. So unfortunate.
What I think is confusing the issue, the on the Vice grad video there you're using, it does appear to be a military ship that's burning, but there is a small oil tanker in the background. And I think some people are assuming the burning ship is a tanker too, and it doesn't really look like a tanker to me. So anyway, we'll see.
We don't know what the truth is.
Yeah, we don't know. Fog of war. And we got I got us way off topic again. Sorry.
I love Andrew's point. Not all areas demand the same thing. The other issue of the mix is 50% of vehicles in Europe run on diesel, whereas U.S. is under 5%.
Yeah.
But Andrew, also trucks in the U.S. and heavy equipment do mostly diesel.
Trucks,
and so
trains, ships. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be a huge issue. So
big issue everywhere.
As we're closing this fun discussion down, I'm going to go ahead and do a round robin here, and everybody give their last few thoughts on the process here. Irina, I'll start with you.
I don't know what to say. It's interesting times, very, very literally. I don't want to make any predictions because the situation is very dynamic and things can change at any moment.
Yeah.
Interesting is what Spock said right before the Enterprise blew up. Mm-hmm. So I like the way you phrased that. So, and when you sit back and take a look, Tammy, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts for what this represents to some extent is from a political perspective in the UK and the EU, for example, is that you have this new red-green coalition that's more pronounced than it was before. So in the comments there, people were mentioning that last week there was a by-election in the UK. The Green Party came out triumphant. They were also making all kinds of statements and promises with respect to the Muslim population, saying really ridiculous things. And it's kind of like New York, where you get this green socialist aligning with the Islamic community, and that's creating a bit of a political shift in the UK, and I wouldn't be surprised in Germany as well. Germany has its own kind of crazy green bit there, a little more crazy than in the United States. They can go a little far. So this is what's happening in the Middle East is being used as leverage in that sort of green transition, net zero narrative over in Europe, the UK, and even Canada to some extent.
Cool. David?
Well, I think what it all points up is we have to end Lloyd's of London's monopoly, the London monopoly on insuring ocean traffic. It just, I mean, if this is what they're going to do in a crisis, then there has to be competition introduced to the market.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I love it. And
Yeah.
quite honestly, I think the world is healing. It's going to be a difficult time. And if the world and corruption could be exposed even more, I think we're on the right track. I don't see us. I mean, we're at 102 according to oilprice.com right now. It says it's at 102 WTI, 104.5. I think it's going to go down once people start realizing how much Russian oil is unsanctioned. I believe that the Ukraine war has had a major change with the 3-year-old in charge of the Ukrainians lobbing bombs around is just absolutely nuts. I think it's going to be a whole new shift in the change. So Zelensky is absolutely needs to have an election, but that's just me.
That's why he's not having any.
Exactly.
So with that, we're going to have a great week and buckle up. I think the news cycle has already started this morning. So with that, for everybody at the Energy Realities podcast, woo!
Thanks.